Hello, Unfiltered Waters family, and welcome back. We are so excited to bring you another episode that we filmed from Olympic trials at Lucas Oil Stadium. So I really encourage you guys, if you normally just listen to the podcast, which is amazing as well, you might want to pop on YouTube and watch some of these just because the background is insane. We're literally looking out over the entire pool and competition space in Lucas Oil, and it was just incredible to be there and be in that moment. So even more amazing than the background is this week's guest. We have none other than Cullen Jones. This one was so special for Katie and I because Cullen is practically a brother to both of us. We've known him for so long. He's been such a huge part of our lives and our careers. But selfishly, that's why Katie and I, one of the many reasons why we love these conversations so much, is not only do we get to know people better that we don't have a history with, we get to know people better that we do share a history with. And I learned so much about Cullen in this conversation, and it was just beautiful to sit down and have this intentional time with him. So a little bit more about Cullen for those that do not know. He is a 4-time Olympic medalist. He got a gold in the most famous Olympic race of all time, the 4x100 freestyle relay from the 2008 Olympics. We talk a lot about that experience in today's conversation. In 2012, he got a silver in the 50 free and the 400 free relay, and he got gold as a part of the 400 medley relay. He has 13 medals, 7 of which are gold from international competition, and he is the first Black American swimmer to hold a world record in swimming, and it is that 4x100 freestyle relay. So we talk about so much with Cullen. We talk a lot about being that first Black American to hold a world record and the responsibility he felt as someone of color to make sure that this sport was having the diversity and represented what this country truly looks like. He does a ton of work with the USA Swimming Foundation. He had a near drowning experience at just the age of 5. We talk about that. We go throughout his career, swimming at NC State, turning professional, signing with Nike. He's now a dad to an amazing son, and we talk about how that has changed his perspective and also about the transition he had going from sport into the real world. He works for Speedo right now, so it may from the outside seem like a very natural transition, but Cullen really works us through the ups and downs of what it was like for him to make that transition and how he got to where he is today. But Cullen is so down to earth. He's so funny. He is so humble, and I know you guys are absolutely going to love the conversation. So without further ado, here is Cullen Jones.
Here at Unfiltered Waters, we have a big summer coming up, and that means lots of time in a hotel room, on an airplane, and lots of opportunities to mess up our sleep. Missy and I have to be on and ready for the action, and we can't be worrying about being sleep deprived. I am obsessed with this Dream Tape. I have been using it for 6 months, and let me tell you, I fall asleep faster. I wake up more rested. It's breathable. It's super soft and super easy to take off, and I am so grateful to Dream Recovery for providing us with the ability to be on when we need to and well rested throughout a crazy busy year. We have a special code for you. It's code UNFILTERED for 30% off your first order and 50% off your first month of Dream Tape. Sweet dreams. Cullen Jones, yes. Welcome to Unfiltered Waters live in the Lucas Oil Stadium.
I mean, you can't beat this background. Thank you for having me.
You can't beat this guest.
Oh,
are you kidding? The real view
humbled.
is
Thank
right
you. I'm right here.
Like, right here.
I hope everyone's ready for these stories because we go way back, the three of us.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
I'm so excited. First off, just thank you for taking the time.
Yeah,
we know that this is an insanely busy week for you, for all of us.
Wild.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with us.
Look who I'm talking to. The both of you. I can only imagine what your schedules look like this week. But yes, it's a fun time. It's like a family reunion.
I know.
It's so fun.
Literally just said that.
Yeah.
And you just have to embrace it. Like, it was kind of perfect. We just had Todd DeSorbo's episode come out, and he had like the best saying in there where what he's kind of focused on is his word is chaos. And it's you have to build the plane while you're flying it. And I was like, that is so perfect for trials. It's just like you get there and you just figure it out.
Yep.
So what a lot of people probably don't know is that Todd was my coach my last year when he was at NC State. And that is a perfect way of Todd's coaching. Chaos, complete chaos. And then at the end, you're like, That's what you meant. He does put it all together. And so that's, I'm sure that's why all his swimmers trust him. I trusted him. And if I was going to go for 21, it was going to be for Todd.
Wow.
Yeah, I loved him as a coach.
Well, we loved our conversation with him. I think we were
Right.
both so blown away by it. And he's just been one of many. So we're so thankful, again, that you're here. And I know that you were like my brother. I mean, we've been through so much together, but I think some of the times I've cherished most with you over the years are the work that we've done together
You
with
mean
the
Call Me
foundation.
Maybe?
And the Call Me Maybe video.
Told you, there's going to be some stories that pop up. No, yes, the foundation work that we're able to do together it's been so amazing. And yes, I am, of course, older than Missy, but to watch, like, you blossom on the board and the things that you bring to the table, it's amazing to see us kind of in this next evolution, that we're still close. We still talk to each other. We still make fun of Katie, but it's all fun. It's all fun. It's all fun, you know?
Except for Katie.
Honestly, at this point, it's been like 20 years. I've just accepted my fate. And
No, but you've got some zingers. You bring it back.
Really?
No, not at all. But I was trying to build you up, but it's cool. It's cool.
Well, that's part of my problem. I'm just like too gullible. I'm like, oh my gosh. Or I celebrate if I get a zinger like once every like 6 months. I'm like, yes. And then it's like
Ticker tape parade,
ruined it.
everything.
Yeah.
It's like, that was 2 weeks ago,
And then you're just going to
Katie.
keep making fun of her for how excited she was about it.
Fine.
We're doing
goodness.
a ton of stuff while we're here with it, and I've heard this story 100 times, but honestly, it'll never get old for me, A, because of how you tell it, but I think it's such an important story. So I was wondering if you would share it with us, kind of your reason of why you're involved with the USA Swimming Foundation, your near drowning incident, and why it is so important for you to spread the knowledge and awareness about the importance of swim lessons and reducing drowning risks in our country.
Absolutely. And I mean, for me, I always like to say that I believe in humble beginnings, because I never thought swimming was going to be for me, and swimming in something like this was just something I watched on television. You know, I grew up born in the Bronx, grew up in Irvington, New Jersey, right next to Newark. Stay in the airport. Stay in the airport. But I grew up in an area where, you know, people like me played basketball and football. They did not swim. And my parents would put me in a bathtub, and I would sit there for hours playing with my Hot Wheels. And if they pulled me out, I would cry. So they were like, we got a water baby. So they took me to an amusement park, thinking this is going to be so much fun. My dad, who is 6'4", I'm 6'5", that's right, I beat him. He wanted to get on the biggest ride there, and I was really excited because he's my mentor, he's my idol. Like, yes, if he's doing it, I'm doing it. My mom's like, absolutely not. This is a terrible idea. And so we wait an hour to get to the top of this ride, and the whole time my mom's face is just getting more angry and more angry. And you both know my mom, and she's always smiling. This was not the day. So she was very, she was just cautious. She was worried. We end up getting to the top. I was one of those kids that just did not pay attention. And my dad was like, Cullen. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I'm going to go first. You're going to go second. Your mom's going to go last. Whatever you do, don't let go of the inner tube. I said, okay, not a problem. So he goes down first. He's screaming. And I mean that high-pitched scream. So I'm like,
I didn't know my dad could make that
I didn't
sound.
know.
Yeah.
The octave. I didn't know. And so he comes down, and I'm like, okay, my turn. I look at the conductor. The conductor gives me like one of these shakes, and like, oh no. And I'm like, dude, I'm tall enough. He's just like, all right, just hold on to the inner tube. So I come down, and I end up hitting the pool. Like I said, I was tall 5, but very skinny. When I hit the pool, I flipped upside down.
Oh my God.
And in that inner tube, everyone's like, why didn't you just jump up in the middle? Well, it was covered. So it was one that was for someone of my size, because I was younger, so that we didn't fall through. But when it flips upside down, now you have a surface area that I can't get up for air. So I was underwater for over 30 seconds, completely passed out, had to be fully resuscitated. And to this day, whenever Todd gave me hold your breath practices, I remember flashbacks of this moment of being like, oh my God. And I just did not know. Anytime I had to hold my breath, and swimming the 50, of course, you have to hold your breath.
Yeah, look at that.
I was like, well, I couldn't go as long as both of you in the distances, so I stuck to the 50. But I would feel it. I could feel what it felt like. And I've stopped in practices, and like David Marsh, who's I've been swimming for him for 11 years, he would know. And he would see me stop, and he'd be like, he never pushed me. He never pushed me to have to hold my breath. But I got out of that pool that day and was like, oh, what's the next ride we're getting on? Because I was 5 at a water park with my parents and didn't want to leave.
Your mom must have been so
Oh, we left fast.
Oh my
The
God.
day is over.
She was so mad, and I would have hated to be my dad because he talked her into it.
Yeah.
So how did you overcome that? I think another part of your story that I admire so much and that I think is so important for our listeners to hear is that you really didn't get involved into the sport seriously until later on. And I think that's such a powerful message because sometimes when I share my story, I'm always like, yes, I made Olympic trials at 12, but like if you haven't done that and you're 12, it doesn't mean that like you are behind or like everyone is just on their own path. And so that's why I love having different stories. So share a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. And listen, for all those listening, these are two phenoms that, yes, of course, at young ages. But for me, yes, swimming was very difficult, very difficult. You guys just kept winning the whole time.
I mean,
I was a proud big brother watching.
Oh. I will say the one thing that gives help to those people is I started at 5, but then I retired at 6.
Yeah.
I always say that because I hated it. So I
Yeah.
think it's fine to stop and start late. Like
for
it
sure.
doesn't, there's no set formula. So
Absolutely. And I think I love to see so many athletes doing that. Like Natalie Hine, for example, taking time off and coming back. Caleb took time coming back.
Yep.
Fingers crossed. I think he's going to do really well. But to your point, Missy, I went through 5 different teachers before I started feeling comfortable again after that. And I mean, we went from the Boys and Girls Club to the Y to a private pool to lessons, and I always make it and equate it to your favorite math teacher or your favorite spelling teacher. You have that teacher that says something to you and it just clicks. And mine was Coach Brad. Coach Brad just made me feel comfortable. So I saw swimming for the first time at a meet when I was 8, and I was actually, I'll just tell you the truth, trying to impress a girl. So I was like, I can swim as fast as I can run. And she's like, So I went to my first practice, and she completely just destroyed me.
Love that.
We tried to do 100, and she was like, bing, 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 bing. And I'm like, doggy paddling, trying to get to the wall.
Oh, my God.
So yeah, it didn't come easy to me. And I think that's a part that I like to tell a lot of swimmers, because they feel like they're failures if they don't just automatically touch something and are not great at it. And so you got to fail with grace. It happens all the time. We don't always win. They do. I don't. But,
Untrue.
I'm just swat you and sit here. That is not true. Who was helpful in that? Was it both your parents that were just like, okay, that's all right, it's not a fit, let's move on? Like 5 is a lot.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. My dad knew, and through our work, Missy, we know that like if we have one parent that knows how to swim, there's an 88% chance that child will learn how to swim. And so luckily my dad, he wasn't doing flip turns and starts or anything, but he could get across the pool. And he was like, yeah, you got to learn. And then my mom at the time didn't know how to swim. And, we see, especially in the Black culture, when you have a negative experience like that, most parents try to shield their kids from the pool and say, hot, fire, stay away, just don't touch, don't go back.
It's scary for everyone.
100%, especially after a negative experience like that. And I was fully supervised. There was lifeguards there. My parents were there. Like, it wasn't that stereotypical, you were horse playing and someone pushed you in or you did something you weren't supposed to do. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. And I'm very blessed to have them not go the traditional route that we're seeing a lot of families go, where they treat something like that as off limits at that point. They were like, no, we want to give you the tools to be safer around the water, so your butt's going to practice. And I had a lot of energy.
So they were
like,
powerful. Like I just, the importance of that message cannot be understated.
Yeah.
So that's why I can never get tired of you telling it,
appreciate
because
that.
thank you. And
I
I know it's kind of a
enjoy it.
lot to have to relive that over and over again. So thank you.
But
truly.
I get to reminisce about my parents. It's like when we get to
Yeah.
talk about the Olympics and our experiences, and it's always my dad passed when I was 16 from lung cancer. So anytime I get to talk about him, it just makes it real for me. So no, I love talking about it.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I want to reminisce on the 2008 Olympics.
Yeah.
Your first one, and obviously everyone knows the very, very famous race that I think is everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
Which is the 4x100 freestyle
Appreciate that.
relay.
But that is good homework. If you are listening or watching and you have not seen the 4x100 freestyle relay from the 2008 Beijing Olympics, homework. That is your job after
Appreciate
this.
that.
Yeah,
Yes.
like watch, and then you'll watch it
And
20
then
more
the
times.
entire documentary that was done about it is bonus extra credit.
I'm going to be honest with both of you. To this day, even at trials, I have these young kids running up to me like, "Oh my God, you're Cullen Jones." I'm like, "How? You were born like last week. How do you know
it's
that?"
that
and
epic.
The parents are like, "You're going to watch this
Yeah,
anyway." So
this is
I feel really
knowledge.
blessed for that, and I can't watch it without my heart rate just shooting through.
It was historic. You
Oh
were a
my
part of
God.
something that was unbelievably
was
historic
really
in many
cool.
ways.
I want to hear just what's in your mind the whole time. Like, I feel like I mean, and actually, I'm really bitter about that day because I didn't get to watch it live.
No, yeah.
I
well,
was the
you
400
had quite the catalog of events you had to
I had
race.
things I was doing, yes. But the 400 AM was right before it, and I
Yeah.
watched on this tiny little screen in the warm down pool, which was obviously still very epic, but not like watching
were
it
there, you
there.
heard it?
I heard
Real-
it.
real
I heard
time?
it. But I would love. I've never actually heard what you were thinking. I mean, there has to have been like 30 different emotions going on in your head. So can you take us from like ready room
Yeah.
to through the race?
Absolutely. So, for all those that have not been to an Olympic Games, it's basically summer camp. You're sitting in an apartment, you're with your best friends, and then there's like a dining hall that you go to. And so that night before, the NBA guys came. If you remember, they
Yes,
came to wish
yes,
us good luck.
yes.
And so I was on a cloud because I got to meet Kobe Bryant. And that was like, still to this day, I will watch clips of him and I'm just be inspired. And the short few times that I've been able to have conversations with him, he was just such a big impact on me. But the next day I was on a cloud. I was like, all right, let's go. I knew I was technically the slowest person with a 47.6 on the team, which to this day still blows my mind. But I was the slowest person. So my biggest thing was like, don't mess up. You want to go as fast as you possibly can. Of course, MP's going for 8 gold medals, but of course he never made it about that. Like, it was always about Team USA. Yes, of course we want to win, but him going for 8 made us all step up and want to win. Jason, who was on the 2000 relay, lost it to Australia. First time the US has ever lost a 4x100. He's, I guess, bitter would be a nice way to put it.
Be the perfect word to
He's
describe.
like, we're taking this back.
vendetta
And I'm like,
against
dude,
them.
you know that they have the world record holder and the fastest man in the 100 freestyle this year. And me as the rookie and Garrett as the rookie, we're sitting there like, Michael, Jason, teach us. And they were just like, just go out there and do it. And that was it. There was no other question of we could lose. No, that was not even in our minds. So right in the ready room, it's so funny to think about the personalities, right? So like,
so different.
You guys met Mean Mug MP back in 2016. He was doing that back in 2008 in
He's
the ready
been
room.
around a while.
He's so focused. He's in his
2004
thing.
even, like,
Oh, I'm sure. I want to know how he was when he was 16 in 2000. I wonder how he was in the ready room. Was he actually nervous?
I heard he was like always playing pranks and kind of being that little brother to everybody.
Yeah,
That's
that
what
seems
I've
about
heard.
Right? That's on
That's what it
brand.
checks
Yeah,
out.
that checks out.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was such in his own. And then you had Jason just standing and just kind of even keel because he was always the dad on the team. So like we all like looked up to him. And then Garrett is like, he's got his foot on the chair and he's like vibrating the chair. He's so nervous. I'm like, chill. And I'm just like blowing my eardrums out listening to like Jay-Z, I think at the time, but I was just so amped up. And then Eddie Reese comes by and he's like, I'm like, okay, the coach is going to say something. All right, he's our Olympic coach. Here we go. He walks up and goes, don't mess up. And then walks off. I was like,
Stop.
That is such an Eddie thing.
Right?
I mean,
Right?
I'm
Probably
not
like
surprised
deadpan.
at all. Yeah,
deadpan,
just don't mess
completely
up.
deadpan. I was like, okay.
Cool. Did you guys look at each other, or was it just like, did MP probably ignored him?
No,
Garrett
he
probably
ignored him. Jason just looked at him like, if you don't get out of here. And I'm
along.
sitting there laughing. I'm like, what? I probably needed it. I actually probably needed
And that's
that
the magic
moment.
of Eddie.
Yeah.
Yes, he probably
I
knew you did.
I needed to laugh. And then Garrett, because he swam for Eddie, Garrett's laughing. And so I think it helped the two rookies kind of
Yeah.
come down. But when we were behind the blocks, his storybook, and look who I'm talking to. You've been behind the blocks where it's like, it's weird. Something special is about to happen.
Yeah.
And we were worried because you had Brazil who had Cesar Cielo, and they front loaded their relay. Then you had Australia with Eamon Sullivan, who front-loaded their relay. And we've got Mike going first. And we're like, wait a minute, is this the best thing? We can't change it because it's on the card already. But he's going first. He obviously is one of our studs on the team. We want him in a place. I was going third. Garrett had the fastest 100 for the U.S. at that time. So we felt good about how we were stacked up. But when we saw the lineup, and then we looked over at the French team and saw Freddie and Elaine in the back, I was like, oh, because I knew, I mean, I've trained with Fred Bousquet. He's a really good friend of mine. And I'm just looking at him, and he's got this smile. I'm like, you.
Well, that's something that people don't realize. Like, you have no idea until you walk out there what the lineup looks like.
That's a great point.
You have no idea, and then you're looking, you're like, oh, okay, so now literally 2 minutes before I'm about to race, I know who I'm racing. But that's your first glimpse at it because, I mean, it's smart.
Right. No, and it keeps everything, fair across the board.
Yes.
But when you look, and I mean, we were sitting there thinking, so we sat with the coaches as we knew that it was going to be the four of us, but they pulled us into a room and they were like, what do you guys think? Really? And I was actually really, and I think it was because of Jason, because everyone just trusts Jason because of his maturity on the team. But, we were thinking about like, who's going to front load, who's going to back load. Well, the French team, they could split it. We don't know. And so our goal was to split. We knew that most likely, Michael didn't actually swim the 100, but we knew he could go 47 low. And then we knew Garrett and Jason can do it. And I had just gone 47 mid. So I was like, okay, we're looking pretty good. Yeah. Now, no one thought Jason would go 46.0, but there's that. Superman, came to play. But yeah, there was a lot of strategy behind it. But yeah, you're right. Like when you get behind the block, you're like, oh God, I'm racing you.
Yeah, you're like, oh. So was there any, at that point, there was no, I mean, everyone's seen the kind of the pan in the video. There are no words spoken at that point, right?
Definitely not between the teams. No, I mean.
Or between the four of you.
No, we knew what we were going to, no, we just knew. That. We knew it was go time. There was no words besides let's go. And if you've ever been behind the block with MP, it's just a different type of let's go. When he gets hype, I mean, we were just like, I'm getting chills now. Yeah. I'm ready to go. You want to
go?
I'm ready
we're
now.
Done.
Let's go. I mean, I was just so hyped up, and I was like, all right, let's go. We got this. There was no thought in my mind that we could lose. None.
Have you ever had that same thought in any other race?
In 2012, I was a little worried. Now, I knew I was way better shape. I knew I could probably go 47 low. I felt great. And I was actually at that point not the slowest on the relay because I was like, yes, I am not going in 2012 to be the slowest one. And so, it didn't feel the same. And we ended up getting second. But it just didn't have the same feel as the team. We just didn't. Yeah. We didn't have it.
Yeah. Yeah. So all right. So take us the first two go.
Yeah.
You're watching. So who would be second?
So it was Garrett second.
You were second.
Oh, I was third.
You're third.
I was third.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Garrett was second.
Yeah, Garrett was second.
Garrett's coming in, and I'm like, okay, we've got a little bit of a lead. Let's go. So I take off, and what I didn't see is all I see is Fred catching me, and in my head, I'm like, no.
Panic.
So I don't know what time. We don't know what time we're going, and I flip, and I'm like, okay. Fred's coming. I know he's going to catch me. I've got to hold him off. And so I kept it within an arm stroke of him catching me. And my first thought truly was, I messed this up.
Oh.
I just cost us the gold medal. I cost Michael 8. I didn't do it. I didn't go fast enough. I let my country down.
Ugh, whole body chills. Yeah.
And so, internet, and everyone rips into me to this because now I work in marketing, and it's like you want to get the picture, right? You want that moment. My butt goes to the side because I can't breathe, and I need an AED because I'm like, I can't breathe. I get out of the pool, and I'm looking at the pool, and I just see Jason flip, and I'm like, wait a minute, he's not that far behind. And then he does
what Jason
the most mature, that's the maturity, right?
Yeah.
He gets on that lane line, and he knows what he has to do. He rides the lane line. Elaine literally pulls him the first 50.
Yeah.
And then the second 50, he just eats him alive. And I'm on the side trying to catch my breath, and then I see it, and I'm like, and now I'm holding my breath again. And then you're coming in, And if you watch it, you'll see, and I always love this part, because if you watch the bottom left of the screen, you'll see me jump in and I almost fall in. And for all those that don't know, if you fall in, you will DQ it. So I almost fell in.
I'm rewatching
I almost
it.
DQ'd him. But I jump up, and then I'm like, oh, snap, the pictures. Ah! And I'm running over, and then, of course, all the pictures are Michael and Garrett.
And Garrett ducking
under his arm to be like, yeah. So, but,
And there's CJ
won.
just running
I'm like-
in slow motion.
because I had nothing left. And then
Yeah.
there was 3 times. Jason's like, get up. Michael's like, get up. The pictures. I was like, I
She
can't.
said that.
I
Get
can't
up the
breathe. I
pictures.
can't breathe.
Oh
I
my
can't
God.
breathe. Like if you watch it, my cap is still on. My goggles are still. I
Yeah,
didn't have enough
yeah.
strength to do this.
I mean, that's how you know you laid it all
Oh my God.
out there.
Yes. And I went back and I'm like, all right, Coach, where'd I go? He goes, 47.5. And I was like, okay.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can.
I did what I needed
I can
to do.
do that. I can do that. Yeah.
I mean, and the most amazing historic thing, right? You guys won gold, you broke the world record, and you become the first, you have to correct me on this, the
Yes.
first black
American.
American
Yes.
to break a world record.
Yeah, so I'd love to kind of talk to you about that too, because
Please.
I get a lot of like, well, what do you want, African American or do you want? I prefer Black American, and there's one reason why. The work we do with the foundation. I was right after that Olympic medal. You know, someone said to me, "Do you know what you just did for the sport of swimming?" I'm like, "I had no idea." "Do you know what you just did for Black culture?" And I'm like, "No." Until I got home. And someone came up to me and they were like, "Oh my God, can I get your autograph?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm not the basketball player that you think." No, you're Cullen Jones. I'm like, well, yeah, cool. And so we started the work with Make a Splash. And at the time, it was just me at it and doing it and traveling. And I went to, I want to say it was like Houston. And I was working with a bunch of kids. And I said, you know, I'm the first African American to have a world record and a gold medal in swimming. And this little girl at the end of everything that I say comes up and she goes, "Oh my God, I'm the only swimmer on my team that's Black. And I just wanted to know, where in Africa are you from?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm from the Bronx, girl. I'm from New York."
oh no.
And so that moment immediately, like I don't mind African American by any means. I mean, I think both terms are fine. But for me, in that moment, as a person that is a role model to so many different kids, I want them to understand that I am a Black American, and I'm so proud that we have African Americans from Africa here swimming. But I can't claim it. I can't claim it. So
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's very helpful for all of us.
Yeah.
And it's, again, not your job to educate us, but we really appreciate your perspective, and especially for our listeners.
I
too.
love having the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only way we as a people get better,
Yeah.
is if we have the hard conversation. And sometimes it's not that hard. Was that hard? It wasn't hard.
Well, because you're awesome and you're
appreciate
awesome.
that.
That's the main reason why. You don't
Okay.
make it awkward.
I won't pick on you. I'll take one off the table.
Was
Pick-
it? Like a day?
No.
Like an hour?
A single comment, just one
A
comment.
single comment.
just
That
one.
sucks.
See, that was your one. And you used it.
Damn it. All right, so you finished out Beijing, historic performance, and I read this quote that you said that David Marsh at that point then turned to you and said, "Okay, now it's time to learn how to swim."
Yes.
Please
yes.
elaborate on that.
So what's crazy about my story is that right before 2008, I was swimming at NC State, so let's say that was March, and I remember April 1st, because he thought it was a joke. I called Mark Schubert, and I was in tears. He was the national team coach at that time. I was in tears, and he's like, "What is the matter?" And for all those that don't know, he's got a super deep voice. "What's the matter?" I was
like,
like, well, I'm crying more. I was like, "I don't think I'm going to make the team." He goes, "What do you mean you're not going to make the team?" He's like, "You're the number 150 freestyler." And I was like, I don't think I'm going to make the team. I was like, I go to practice, and my coach, Brooks Teal, who's an amazing coach, we had been working together for so long, I knew what the next day's practice was going to be. And I said to him, I was like, this is just not the environment that's going to get me there, and it's April. I don't know what to do. He was like, is this an April Fool's joke? And I was like, no, I'm being for real. And he goes, okay, that guy who's always telling you, fix your start, fix your kick when you were at NCAA's, you know, David Marsh of Auburn. I was like, yeah. He goes, you know, he's in Charlotte. And I was in Raleigh at the time. And I was like, yeah. He goes, go down there and I'm going to call him right now. I was like, when do I go? He goes, yesterday. So I had just bought a house. I packed up my car and I drove, didn't call my coach, and was at practice the next morning at 6 a.m. Didn't find an apartment. Luckily, my cousin was actually, it's storybook. My cousin happened to be living in Charlotte at that time.
Oh my gosh.
And I moved into his apartment. That night, he was like, yeah, whatever, get in here. And I just came in. I got ready. I went to practice the next day.
Talk about just like laying it on the line.
All in.
All in.
Just,
I just completely
Trusting
uprooted
the
my life.
process.
I uprooted my life.
Wow.
I moved over to Charlotte, and David Marsh was like, okay, what's your tempo? And I was like, my what? He goes, how did you get to this level and not know your tempo, not know this, not know that? I was so green. I just liked swimming. Sorry, Ricky Bobby. I like going fast. Yeah. It just wasn't like something, like he broke it down. He's such a scientist. And, you know, he put me through the ringer to put me on the team. But afterwards, he goes, you don't know how to do flip turns. You don't know how to swim freestyle. Your start is good because you have a good vertical, but we got to fix that. And I was like, man, I got a gold medal and a world record. What are you talking about?
Excuse me.
And he goes,
something right.
Yeah.
so you know Fred? And I was like, yeah. He's like, he catch you? I was like, yeah. He's like, you know, that's my athlete. You want to swim like a man now? I was like, and for all those coaches that don't know me, that's a button. And so I was like,
going to say, how did you react to that?
I think the reason why I work really well with Todd and I worked really well with David is that they both knew, and even Braden, because like Braden went to NC State, and I had so much trust, and I think they knew I trusted them, that they could push me, and some people need the gentle touch. I just never did. So once they knew that about me, they knew how to trigger me. Yeah. And when you triggered me, I always had a boxing mentality.
That fire got lit.
And that was it. Yeah. So for the next 3 months, I was not allowed to swim freestyle. Not allowed because my stroke was really small. And he's like, Fred's stroke is completely straight armed. And he was like, Fred ate your lunch. Time to fix it. So I just started doing backstroke. I wasn't allowed to do flip turns because he said, you don't do bad flip turns. So I had to do open turns. So we were doing 10 100s, 20 50s, and they were all backstroke. Open turns. Training for World Championships of 2009. I don't know why. We were at some meet at TAC in Raleigh, and it clicked, and my arm came up. And I thought this man was about to jump in the pool. He goes, yes, that's it. And I came up and over, and I learned how to vault my shoulder and then vault my other shoulder. And at that point, like, he had a tear in his eye. Oh. And I was like, I get it now. It clicked. Yeah. And as soon as I learned how to do that, I learned how to take the stroke into the turn. And then my turn was faster. And that summer, because I trusted the process, I set the American record in the 50 free, doing that new stroke. But yeah, I owe a lot to David.
That's a pretty epic story.
Yeah.
And having trust in yourself and your coach too.
At 24, mind you. Oh my God. I've been doing this for a while, and I'm being taken back to rudimentary, drills. Like I was doing literally like doggy paddle or human paddle. Like, I was doing these like really, really rudimentary drills, but then it sharpened it so much that when I got behind the block, I was ready.
You're set. I am so thankful for Element because I truly think that without them, I would not be hitting my hydration goals. Element makes staying hydrated not only easy, but also so delicious. Element contains 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium, and no sugar. And all of that is based on clinical evidence behind those electrolyte ratios. If you guys haven't tried their sparkling yet, it is going to be the drink of the summer. I promise you, there's nothing more refreshing than taking a can of Element sparkling out of your fridge in these hot summer days and knowing that you're staying hydrated while truly, truly enjoying it. Especially as a mom, I know how important it is during pregnancy, during breastfeeding, during postpartum to stay hydrated. Always check with your doctor to make sure you're doing what's best for you. But I'm so thankful that I have had Element throughout my entire journey as a mom to help keep me hydrated and going and strong like a mother. So you had that amazing success in 2008. 12 was amazing. You continued to get better, especially being here at Olympic Trials. We thought we'd talk about 2016.
Yes.
Katie and I talked, and we've had guests on that have placed third at Olympic trials.
Yes.
And so, you know, we won't touch on it too much because we have spoken about it before.
Oh,
but
you've talked to my therapist too?
Yes,
yeah, I'm not supposed to
we have
talk
all of our
about that.
therapists.
We call all of our guest therapists before and get the lowdown.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's good. Smart.
But it is so interesting to me how people do overcome that, because I think what we've really tried to describe to people is getting third at trials is one of the hardest things to happen in this sport.
Yeah.
And for you, I mean, it's a 50 free, so it was a little over 0.2 of a second, which is less. I mean, a blink of an eye is how tiny that is. Yeah. How did you overcome that? What was that process like?
So there was layers to that. So the first layer was I was overconfident. One of the things that David always said was, when the lights are the brightest, you figure it out. And for so long, that's why he was right. You can't just rely on talent. You have to put the work in. And I relied way too much on the talent. And then the other layer is Anthony Irvin was swimming at Cal and then moved to Charlotte to train with me. Now, historically, he has not had the best start, and he would honestly say that as well. And we were working on it for this dude to touch me out. And I was like, you're
welcome.
And so, but I can't blame him. I can't blame David. I have to blame myself. Thank you, therapist.
I was gonna say, how long did it take you
a
to
lot.
get there?
Yesterday, I just had this breakthrough. But no, it was tough. And so what was the hardest part? And I think that's why I call both of you legends as well, is what happened when I got out of the pool. When I got out of the pool, the entire arena stood up and gave me a standing ovation.
Wow.
And I broke. And it wasn't even that, because at that moment, I was like, I'm done. I really felt like at that point I'd given it everything. Or worse, I messed up by not giving it everything. And so I went to a really dark place. And I went to a dark place until I saw Simone win.
Wow.
And when Simone won, the first thing she said is, I want to give glory to God. And I really want to thank Maritza McClendon and Cullen Jones. And I broke again, because one, the work that we do is to try to help kids learn to swim. But for me, it's also trying to make this sport look like our country and be inclusive. And here is this young black woman who just won gold. And she's like, I had anything to do with that. I was just I was aghast. And so later that year, our CEO at the time, Chuck Wilgus, he's really sick at this point. We're at Golden Goggles. And he says to me, he goes, how you doing? And I'm like, bro, you're asking me how I'm doing. How are you doing? I want to make sure you're good. And I looked up to Chuck so much because one of the things that Chuck taught me was the public speaking. He was the one that really forced me to do it. And he was like, you will be a much better public speaker than you'll ever be a swimmer. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, because you need to tell your story. And
you are an unbelievable story.
Oh, thank you. My wife says that they're too long. Because she could probably say them herself. But love you, Rupi. But he said to me, he goes, are you done? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, that's all I needed to hear. I hear NC State's doing really well right now. And your old friend Braden is the head coach. And what else didn't you do that you promised me you'd do? And I was like, finish my degree. He goes, sounds like you should go do that. And I said, and when Chuck said stuff, it wasn't like
suggestion.
It was never a suggestion. It was like, get your butt over there and go do that. Yeah. And I was like, for you? Yeah. So I called Braden. We were still in New York at Golden Goggles. And he's like, hell yeah, come on down. And so I show up Jan 1st, and I have to tell this story because I'm shocked. Todd laughs all the time. I show up 25 pounds overweight. Oh, no. And Todd goes, who ate Cullen? What is this? And I'm like, well, I was depressed. And Ben and Jerry's was there. So
Ben and Jerry's is always there.
Always there.
and so he was like, all right, we're going into camp. And I was like, I know what that means. I'm going to get my butt handed to me. And for the next 6 months, this man put me through the ringer. It was the most training I'd ever done. He had me training like I was training for a 200. Yeah. And when I tell you it was
Which, for everyone listening, if you're a 50 freestyler, training for a 200 is a big jump.
It was massive.
Big jump.
Yeah.
I was doing 4,500 yards, and he had me at 6 every day.
Yeah, that's huge.
And it's not 6 in warm up and warm down, kids. Okay, no, those were in the yardage. I was doing 200s on repeat. It was the hardest thing, but the atmosphere that was there. You had Braden and Todd. I'm sorry, I had Braden and Todd. And two of one, like, still to this day, I think the greatest minds, young minds in the sport. I would have loved to be coached by Nesty, but I had those two, and they really, they just made my last year in the sport so memorable, and I have to thank them for that.
And did you end up getting your degree?
I did, and I got touched out by Caleb at Worlds the next year. It's okay.
Not a bad person
it's
to be
not
touched
a bad
out
person.
by.
And like, I think he had tears in his eyes. Nathan had tears in his eyes. And it was just that moment where I was like, yep, I'm done. And I'm okay with that, because I didn't end, I ended the story that way I wanted to.
That's amazing.
I was going to finish, get my degree. I was still able at 35 years old to go 21.8. I'm like, I'll take it. I'm out of here.
That's incredible.
There's going to be a lot of people that, whether they get third or whether they have a really rough meet and they're done.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Chuck that kind of spoke into you. What do you have any words of advice or, I guess, ways to move forward for those types of people?
Yeah, what I would tell you is environment's important, and having your people. Like, I think that there's such a, don't get me wrong, I'm on social. I love social, and I love social for what it is, because I can keep up with you guys and see what you're doing, and just like, that's the part that I love about it. The comment section can go suck wind. I hate the comment section, but because we catch it. It doesn't matter. Everyone hears something from somebody that's upset with something else. So 1, never read the comment section. 2, have your person. Social media makes you think that you have to have all these followers, all these friends. I have about 3 people that I really can talk to that are like, I will tell them anything. And I think that's so important. When you get third, it's soul sucking. You know, it's like, you've envisioned Paris. You knew what you were going to be, where you envisioned the pool, the block, what it was going to feel like. For you to miss it by hundredths, you can go to a dark place. And what I would suggest is having your people to talk to. Ice cream helps.
Ben and Jerry's.
Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah.
What's the go-to Ben and Jerry's?
I'm weird. I jump around, but I like chocolate mint.
Okay.
I liked. Let me be very clear about when I say this. I liked butter pecan when I was 6. I'm not an old man, okay? So
comment section is coming
it's
for
coming.
you.
I know. I'm just saying. I like butter pecan. But yeah. And pistachio, so good.
I love it. And that was another thing we wanted to talk about too, which is perfect transition, is you probably made it look seamless, even though there was a lot that you were dealing with. But when I think of athletes that have done an amazing job with the transition of leaving their sport into their next professional career and what that looks like, I think of you as an incredible role model, as someone who's done that. And your position now at Speedo, everything you've done for the foundation, you've stayed very involved in the sport as well. So when you knew you were done, did you know that you wanted to stay super involved in the sport? And what did that transition look like for you?
It's so funny because I've been around now for about 5 years in like 4 years in the corporate world. Most people don't know I actually walked away from swimming for a year, for a solid year. Ariane Romano, who is a massive mentor to me, she's a VP of marketing at PVH when we were under Speedo. When Speedo was under PVH. She was our Olivia Pope. Like, whatever, if we ever needed anything, she figured out how to do it. And she was the one that I just wanted to be like her. I wanted to do that for you. I wanted to do that for all of the athletes that were still swimming, and I still have that drive. And so I really tell anyone, especially, and that's why I love the DAP program, mentors. You get to meet so many cool people. Do you know how many people want to be asked questions, like how they did stuff?
Yeah.
Just ask them. If you find someone that's in the field that you want to be in, ask them.
Can you talk a little bit more about the DAP program for our listeners that may not know about it?
So one of the coolest things, and this, I would say for all of us, when you're done, it is, again, the scariest thing.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're going to do. You know, you've been putting all of this time into swimming. You're now, let's just say 27, when your counterparts were getting people Starbucks at 21, and now they're sitting in like a senior manager role.
Yeah.
You're sitting there.
You've never had a
job.
job.
Never had a job.
Never had a job.
And
Super
you're like,
behind.
what am I going to do? What am I going to do? It's scary. It's scary. And I was in a dark place because I was like, I don't know. And so I actually applied for a job at Speedo. They had a hiring hold. I had an apartment. Rupi and I had an apartment set out. We were ready to go and move to LA. And they had a hiring hold, and they stopped me from being a part of Speedo at that point. And I was crushed because I've been working with Ariane. Ariane was trying to get me, like, she's like, you got to learn how to do this, and this. And she was just really she still is a great mentor to me when it came to being in that role of what I wanted. And it didn't happen. And again, I'm sitting here like, God, can I please catch a break? Like, and then I'm sitting there, and this beautiful woman walks in the room, and Rupi looks me in the eyes and says, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, huh? Okay, now what am I gonna do? And I'm like, okay, all right, what am I gonna do? And so I didn't care what I did because I had a kid on the way. Yeah. Humble thyself. I went back and started lifeguarding because I didn't know that was what I knew. Teaching kids.
Wow.
That's what I knew. So I started working with kids and doing private lessons, and I'm like, okay, this will help a little bit. Let's bring some money in. Let's figure this out. And then one of the groups that we worked with Speedo, Exos, I was like, all right, cool. Maybe I know the CEO there. Let me reach out. And they're like, well, you're going to move to Arizona? I'm like, absolutely not. No, I don't. I got a baby on the way. I can't do that. And he goes, well, we have a Novant Health powered by Exos, which is the hospital that's in Charlotte. And I was like, okay. So they got me in touch with the foundation. And because of the background with working with USA Swimming Foundation, I actually worked a full year as a development manager at the hospital, helping patients pay for their healthcare bills.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And kudos to you for using that network.
Thank you. It's so important. And I think even swimmers at this level, like, you're meeting people, always try to exchange information, try to get build rapport with people. Like, again, Kobe said this to me once, and he was like, your circles are going to be different layers, and it's always going to make sure your tight circle is always the same people, but then you're going to have acquaintances, you're going to have people that you just keep in touch with just to make sure. I have an alarm on my phone twice a month that says reach out to somebody, and it's just to say hi. Like, I don't need anything from you, but it's just to say hi. Just to check in. How you doing? How your family? How's everyone going? And that's it. Yeah. And I've used it. It's come back. It's come back because someone has asked me for something that I've been able to help them with, and then I've had to ask them for something, and they've helped me. So it's very important to have that network.
And thank you for sharing that you had a different job in the corporate world. That hits because I feel like it's so easy to look online, look on social, and I always thought, oh, well, everyone just, like, I thought that of you. It's the first time I'm hearing this. Like, you just moved on and you worked at Speedo, and it was just this little nice little path. And, I went into the corporate world, and I'm like, well, no one else is doing this. And you feel this, like, I shouldn't share this, right? It's weird, or other people are just staying in the sport. So that's going to help someone who goes in the corporate world. And it's like, that's normal. You got to find your way. You got to get the experience, and that's totally fine.
And to answer your question, that's why the DAP program is so cool with the foundation, because these swimmers don't know what their next step is. Yeah. And so what we have on the board is we have so many decorated people on the board that are, and outside the board that are just, they have such a depth of knowledge. And I think both of us, we still, after meetings, we'll sit there and sit with somebody and be like, so how'd you do this? How'd you do that?
Tell me a little bit.
Tell me more. And it's you're always picking their brain because you're just learning. And I'm always telling all these athletes, like, sign up for the DAP because whoever you get matched up with, you will end up learning from them. And so it's a program to really help with that next phase. We didn't have that. And that's what we as board members for USA Swimming Foundation are trying to actually help this next generation, is that you don't have to feel like you stopped or that you're behind when you come out of the sport.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's just so important. Something we talk about a ton too. Let's talk about Avon for a second, since you brought him up and that magical moment when Ruby came in.
Yes.
Okay, Avon is your son.
Yes.
He's beautiful.
Thank you.
He's so sweet.
He is.
How old is he now?
He's wild. he turns 5 in a month, and he's already at my hip. He's so tall, so much energy. He's got his mama's hair, thank God. Thank God. But he's my light. He's everything to me. And like, even when I'm having a bad day, he'd be like, Daddy, I love you. And then run off. And I'm like, well, now I can't be upset.
No, you're like,
no matter what it was. Like, okay, all right, I'm good. So.
How did becoming a dad just change your perspective on the work that you were doing, on the impact you wanted to make?
I loved watching you and Hayes, actually, because I think you guys enjoyed the infant phase. That was not my jam. Like, if you can't tell me what you want, I'm useless. Like, I'm like picking up stuff. You want this? No. You want this? It was like, that was not my favorite part. But now that he's talking back way too much, but he's talking, it's way better. That's been the most fun. And he's starting to mimic me.
We're at the mimicking phase,
which
too.
is good and bad, because I also do practical jokes. And so he will sit in places, and he's the worst hide and go seek player ever. Like, you'll be like, okay, 1, 2, 3, and he's standing behind a palm tree, and you're like,
so then do you have to pretend, or are you like, no, I see you?
come here, let's talk, let's have a talk. He's like standing behind this mic stand. I'm like, dude, no.
That's not how it works.
But he got my wife so good. He got Rupi so good. He's like hid, and she walked by, and he was, Mommy. And when I tell you, she might have peed herself. Like, he got her. I was on the floor laughing. I was like, that's my boy. I'm so proud. So this phase, I love this phase.
It is the best. It is so much fun. And speaking of fun,
Yes. Is it time?
It's time.
Okay.
Okay. So everyone,
This is not prepped. I'm not prepped for this. I'm a little nervous.
This is Katie's brainchild.
my brainchild. So we are rolling out a little fun
Now I'm
series.
really nervous.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so fun. Called On Deck Vibe Check. So
Okay.
essentially, we'll give you 2 things,
Okay.
and you tell us which one you're vibing towards
Ooh.
more.
Okay.
So it'll be
All right.
rapid fire.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you 5. Missy's giving you 5.
Okay.
You ready?
I hope so.
Okay.
Done.
All right. Jordans or Nike?
Ooh, Jordan 1 is my favorite sneaker of all time, so Jordans.
Okay. Drake or Kendrick?
Why are you going to put me on the spot like this?
He wasn't ready.
I'm not ready. My wife's from Toronto. I'm going to have to go Drake. I like Kendrick, don't get me wrong, but I'm a big Drake fan.
Okay. Nice choice. Miami or LA?
Miami.
Ooh, that was quick. Okay. Power Tower or Quartz?
Power Tower.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm more of a power rack guy.
Power rack.
And
yes.
there was one time, actually, Braden and Todd, when I was like really hitting it, I had 2 fully loaded, and I pulled 2 of them.
Can you let's also explain what that is for those that may not know?
Good
So
call.
for all those that don't know, the power rack is a bunch of weights that actually come to a pulley system that you swim against, and you literally, as fast as you go, it's lifting the weight. I don't know how much is on a full rack, but I pulled 2, and then one of them actually fell in the water.
Hey,
that was not a fun day to try to get that thing out of the water.
You must have been.
Yeah, I was
so proud.
When I tell you I was hype, even Braden and Todd, like Todd's mouse on the floor, Braden's just jumping up and down. He's like, yeah, hell yeah. So, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
how much weight is it? I always wonder, because I always had the buckets of water, which was
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
You couldn't tell the amount of weight.
Oh, there is nothing more testosterone driven than when you come and you put your head up and you hear, ding.
Yeah, that's way more satisfying. All right, last one from me. In-N-Out or Five Guys?
Sorry, I'm gonna have to go in and out.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Next 5. Go out or stay in?
go out.
Still, okay.
Still.
Yo,
Just a
these ain't the
subtle
stories we're
throw
supposed
under
to talk
the
about.
bus.
Whoa. But yeah, definitely.
No, but still go out.
Look, my family owns restaurants and hotels and
It's the
and
lifestyle.
nightclubs. Yeah,
It's the lifestyle.
I also just enjoy it.
Yeah,
I like
we
being
know you
social.
do.
I like being social.
All right. Goggles leak or suit rip?
I'd much rather the goggles leak.
Okay.
I've been in the suit rip. That's very revealing.
Unfortunate. Hot tub or cold plunge?
Cold plunge.
Nice.
Love it. Morning or afternoon practice?
Afternoon.
You're a sprinter. We
Good
knew the answer to
Lord.
that. All right. Last one. Spontaneous or planned?
Spontaneous.
Yeah.
I've actually, and I think that's one of the things I really love about Rupi. She makes me have to be spontaneous because when we're swimmers, everything's so regimented,
Yeah.
and which is great. It's great for the corporate world. It's great for most of the things. If you're disciplined enough to try to reach your goals, you want to be that way. But it's also nice to say, "Hey, let's go take Avon to New York." Okay, let's go do that.
Have that spontaneity.
Yeah.
All right, my dear. We have our 3 final questions.
Sure.
We are so thankful for this time. We could talk to you forever,
Yeah.
but final 3. First one is, what is a moment within the sport of swimming that brings you the most amount of joy?
Watching someone else do something for the first time, whether that's putting their face in the water for the first time, blowing bubbles, swimming their first lap. I think that's what kept me in the sport so much, and the work of like traveling around with USA Swimming Foundation and Make a Splash and all the work that we've been doing. It's so rewarding. I feel like it's not fair because I'm getting so much out of it. You know, I'm there to help the community, of course, but you know, when you see someone do something for the first time that they were just absolutely terrified, and then they finally do it, there's just nothing like it. Yeah, nothing like it.
Pause. I was holding that. No, like tearing up. Okay, I'm sorry.
I was like, that's so like trendy. So
No, pause.
And that's how you
Play.
bring Missy to tears, ladies and gentlemen.
I knew he would do it. I knew he would. Every time he gets me.
All right, what's a moment
Yeah.
outside the sport of swimming that has brought you the most amount of joy?
I always had this dream of, we kind of always knew, I'm not going to say Rupi and I always knew we were only going to have one child, but I always had this dream of she and I sharing a coffee and Avon being somewhere that I didn't get to go when I was a kid, whether that's Italy or, you know, my parents we did travel, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like that, but yeah, I always had that. And so we go to New York quite a bit, and I get to live that. And he's like, his favorite place is New York, and it's like, it's home for me. So it's so cool to have my son do that. And so wanted to take him to Paris. It's not going to work out this time, but traveling with him is just really, really fun. Yeah.
It's amazing. All right, last one. If you had to pick one word to describe something that you're working on, something that motivates you, or something that kind of guides you on your journey, what would that word be and why?
I think my word would be kind of still on the same trend. It's legacy. I think at this point, I'm done my own swimming career, so I'm done having to be selfish for the reasons of needing to reach my goals. And so now everything for me is either Rupi or Avon. So everyone's like, how are you working so hard? Why are you always over here? Every time I see you, you're this, you're that. Yeah, because I want to provide for them. I want them to not feel struggle. I want them, I need him to feel struggle because I need him to be someone that can handle struggle.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to, as much as possible, guide that process. And so I'm constantly working to do that. And he already says he likes swimming. And so I want him to never go through some of the things I had to go through swimming, being the only black swimmer. I want him to feel loved by the sport and want the sport to love him back. And do I think that that's going to always happen? Of course not. We've gotten third. It's not always going to love you back. But I want him to, again, this sport to look like the U.S. and be inclusive, and for him to come into something that he feels welcomed. And so I guess my word's legacy.
That's beautiful. It is.
Well, we may have guessed that you were going to.
Oh, okay.
We would like to give you.
Oh my God!
Missy.
Yes. You know what's
So you get to wear your word now.
You know what's so funny? Thank you for this.
You're
and there's a
welcome.
reason why I'm going to say how cool this is. My Father's Day gift was 2 beaded bands that Rupi and Avon got me. In one, I've seen it on Instagram. You can look through one of the beads and there's a picture inside. One of them is Avon on my shoulders. The other one is a picture of my dad giving me a high five when I was 2. And so this sits right next to them. Thank you.
Oh my God.
That was awesome. That's cool. Thank you. Y'all got me. Now I'm crying. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, Cullen, thank you.
Thank you
we
for
have
having
enjoyed this
me.
conversation so much.
Yeah.
Again, your time is just so precious, and we love you.
We love you. I
We
love you
thank
back.
you for everything
Both
you
of
do
you.
for the sport. And
Maybe you less. I don't know. I'm kidding.
You just ruined the most like beautiful moment.
She's crying. I'm trying to help.
I'm still tearing up.
Katie doesn't cry. She doesn't cry. She just gets angry.
I never cry.
I can confirm that is false.
There's a lot of eyeliner in our studio.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
You know that
I need
tight
some.
circle, those people you can tell everything to.
Yes.
My person.
Yes.
So
I
we
love that.
see all of it, and we're here for all of
And
it.
it actually rains through for, I'm sure, all the listeners. You can see how tight you two are, which makes this experience so fun because you guys complement each other so well. So, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Means the world. Now let's go have an awesome Olympic trials.
I'll come back, I promise.
You better.